everybody, welcome back to Spaced Out Radio's Cryptid Tales. My name is Amber Beckrood, and today's topic of conversation is a cryptid, but it's not an animal. That's right, this one is completely out there. I had never heard of it before, but you know what? It makes a lot of sense. What I'm talking about is fairy grass. I know, it sounds weird, but we have had so many plants that have been poisonous to humans, poisonous to animals, and everything else out there. Why wouldn't it be that strange to have something else that makes you feel different? Now, this comes from Irish mythology, and honestly, it kind of makes sense. Of course, here in Newfoundland, where I live, there is a lot of Celtic history as well as Scottish and European folklore that has embedded itself here. You all heard of fairy rings, I'm sure, fairy circles, fairy rocks, and those types of things, but fairy grass to me is a whole new concept. What this fairy grass is the space in between the fairy circle or circle of mushrooms or whatever you want that is dead. Perfect circle that is dead. It is said that anybody who walks across this path is actually going to be completely cursed with insatiable hunger for the rest of their lives. I don't know if I'd want that. I'm hungry enough on a regular basis as it is. I don't think I would want to be continually hungry. I mean, that just doesn't sound fun to me at all. Fairy grass has been known to be small portions of an area to even consuming entire hillsides. And I'm serious, people actually avoid these hillsides completely, especially if it is known for fairy activity. Now, Irish farmers decided that this was actually a big concern because they didn't think it was necessarily fairies that did it, but they thought it was actually a disease that was killing off the grass, and when it would get mixed in with the crops that they were actually processing, that was what was causing people to become sick, i.e. making them extremely hungry. So it felt like they were not getting enough food all the time. Now, others, of course, that believed in fairy folklore believed wholeheartedly that these little tricksters were actually doing something to make people that hungry. My opinion, wouldn't put it past them. I have definitely been around fairy circles. I've been around fairy rocks. I have been around, those dead patches of grass. Have I stepped on them? No. Have I gone through them? Definitely not. But I have definitely been in the woods when you feel uneasy and you know it's fairy territory, as described by the locals, and you do certain things to make sure that everything is okay. Now, what people have talked about over the years is that it wasn't actually necessarily hungry grass that was killing them. It was this spirit of a man who was actually coming and devouring the souls of people. It was said that if you gave relief to the hungry man, you will enjoy unfailing prosperity, and even during the worst periods of famine and death, you would still survive. Nobody knows what the hungry man actually looked like or whether or not he actually exists, but many visitations to Ireland have given him an appearance. So now these spots of grass were also known to potentially be the areas where dead bodies were buried. So that was another thing that people speculated, is that if you actually ate the grass that was around the areas of where a corpse was buried, that was what was also making you hungry for a really long time, just because you were being consumed by the spirit of whatever was buried beneath the ground, who would never feed again. If you ask me, all of these things are pretty much something that I think everybody believed in, and I think they just lend fear to basically trying to make the best of the situation and making sure that, you're not contaminating your crops. You're not pushing yourselves to a limit where you don't have enough food to last a season, as well as provide for the rest of your community. So I think there is some other stories that just kind of culminated into this hungry grass theory. Of course, fairies is always a favorite. Now, there is actually a place that people have said has actually originated the story of the hungry grass or the fairy grass, and that is Hungry Hill. This place was a hill that people were actually terrified to go near, and eventually somebody actually went up and lived on this hill. Young fishermen that had come to Ireland and wanted to actually fish there and live there and do everything that he could. This hill was by the ocean. It was the perfect spot to make his home and actually set up and camp. He brought an apple and a sandwich for lunch, and he got the apple out and started eating it one day. As he got to the hill, people started yelling at him, telling him that he shouldn't be going there, that it wasn't safe, that it just was not a good place for him to go. Of course, he didn't listen, and he just kept climbing. The grass on the hill wiggled around like a snake, wrapped around him, proceeded to continue to eat his apple on the way up the hill. Every time he took a bite, a little bit would fall off of him. He then got to the shore. The other fishermen told him that the hill was said to kill people. Straight up. Hey man, that hill kills people. What were you doing up there? He then put two and two together and came to the conclusion that if you ate while on the grass, you wouldn't fall ill. So he decided that every time he was going to trek up and down that hill, he was going to have food in his hand that he would continue to eat. Then, because the fairies were absolutely furious and decided to plant hungry grass everywhere, they decided that they were just going to start throwing it all over the land of Ireland to try and trick people into killing themselves and consuming their souls. Now, fairies are not always the happiest little creatures that we believe them to be. I'm sorry, Tinkerbell, but she is a pixie, not a fairy. Now, these fairies, of course, have been known to rule all of Ireland, Scotland, and even here in Newfoundland. There are actually many places that we do not venture because of them. Honestly, it is crazy. It's a crazy thing to think about. It's a crazy thing to talk about, but here we are, and fairy folklore is very huge and relevant. I have a lot of people that I know have had fairy stories, including missing time up to a few days, few hours, even a few years. Nobody knows what happened. So, that being said, if you had a fairy encounter, please drop it down below. If you had an encounter with this fairy grass or the hungry grass, please let me know that too. I want to know, are you insatiably hungry and you can't get enough to eat? I would also like to give a huge shout out to Ron Bumblefoot THAL for all of our music here on Spaced Out Radio, including my segment Cryptid Tales. Don't forget to tune into Spaced Out Radio every single day of the week at 9 p.m. Pacific. All of our archives are free here on YouTube, but you can also sign up to the Space Travelers Club for $5 a month. That's right, $5 will get you access to the forums, the live chat every night for the show, as well as some exclusive things for us. It means you get to chat with me and Rich and Dave and Everett and everybody else on the Spaced Out Radio team. And on top of that, you can get your merch right now on the Spaced Out Radio Vault. It is open right now, so get that Christmas swag while you still can. Things out there include t-shirts, mugs, bandanas, magnets, stickers. They have everything. So do not forget to check that out, and I'll catch you guys in the next episode.